Hey everyone, how you doing? James here from Sales Builder. I'm absolutely thrilled to be introducing you to my friend Jamie Claret from Autonomate. Jamie, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
I've wanted to catch up with you for a while because you're something of an authority on AI. And
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it. You've been doing an awful lot of talks recently.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you want to give us just a little snapshot of your kind of background and what you're up to or what you do at Autonomate?
Yeah, so basically I've had an MSP for about 25 years and I still have it. So I kind of have all the battle scars of that. But about 7 or 8 years ago, we decided to try and become more efficient, automate a lot of what we do. So we did that. And when that happened, can I swear? I went, shit, why is not everyone doing this? Or why is everyone not doing this? And so off the back of that, we decided to set up an automation business. I did loads of investigation into it, learned about this thing called RPA, which no one's heard of, which is robotic process automation.
Okay, good.
Which very large companies have been using for about the last 10 years. So when HSBC gets rid of 10,000 people, it's because they've replaced the humans with a kind of software robots. But to get into that world, it's priced for large enterprises. So you're looking at hundreds of thousands of pounds to get into that world. And so I think there's an opportunity here to offer this to the mid-market and offer something that's kind of managed, fully managed, that they can do, that they can use and get all the benefits that these large companies have been getting for years.
Right, I have so many questions for you.
Go for it.
Basically, I mean, at pretty much every MSP event you go to now, there's a session on AI. And more often than not, it's very high level and you get demonstrated the power of AI, whether it's ChatGPT for helping out. What I would love to do is distill this down to some real use cases. And I suspect probably Copilot is the entry point for a lot of MSPs.
It is. I think that as an MSP, so you're right. What I talk about when I go to events is that everyone's talking about all the cool, crazy stuff, videos, cats riding dogs, all those, kind of changing my language, speaking another language, that kind of stuff, which is amazing and brilliant. And I have a lot of fun playing with that.
Absolutely.
But it means absolutely nothing to an MSP who's trying to actually increase their revenue, increase their profit and use it. So there's two parts. There's AI, which everyone's talking about it. That's like the poster boy, but automation is just as important.
Okay.
So you've basically got, I always describe it as AI is the head, and automation is the hands. The brainy bit's brilliant, but with no hands, like it's just a brain in a jar. It can do cool stuff, but that's it. So you need to join those two things up together. And yeah, that's the challenge, is getting people to think outside of kind of all this cool stuff to actual kind of real world examples.
It's a massive departure from just managing tech, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably where I think I need help in terms of my understanding, but certainly the MSPs that I work with as well, probably do need some assistance as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on something about a framework that you have, and I think this is part of the challenge is understanding, okay, so I've got a customer base, and I'm pretty sure that within that base there's endless potential to help these guys. Well, where on earth do you start if it's not your area of specialty?
Yeah, so there's two areas for MSPs specifically. So you've got MSPs who want to improve what they're doing to make it more automated, more efficient, more profitable. But then there's selling it as a service to their customers.
Yes.
And so
I think it's that where the struggle lies.
Okay, that's the struggle. Okay, fine. So the challenge with that for MSPs specifically is that their skill set, and having had one or have one, I understand it, the skill set is totally different to if you want to run an automation and AI business, which is probably bad news for a lot of people, but it should encourage them to think about what they want to do. Because the challenge is that the MSPs have first line support, second line support, technical, fixing problems, whereas automation and AI businesses are business analysts, developers, and project managers.
Do you think the market's going more that way though? Because I feel like it is, even without the automation
more
piece.
Consultative.
Yeah, very much so.
But MSPs understandably want to have a managed service that they can do and get a recurring revenue and provide all that additional kind of expertise and help to their clients. So the framework you mentioned, we've got something called the GAINS methodology. Okay. And we developed this over kind of hundreds of meetings with clients, trying to help them understand how you get from up here with all this cool stuff to down here to meaningful stuff.
Right.
So to keep it very simple, so GAINS, G-A-I-N. Okay, the S bit is first of all the special sauce. That's what makes us human, okay? Within any process, in any department, in any business, there's bits you're never ever going to want to change into AI or automation because things like this is human. That's what we do, right?
So they're the exceptions, that's when it's valued,
and you've got to
you don't
encourage
want to replace.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the bit you don't want to replace. The G is kind of, so think of a process within a business. It could be anything. It could be recording a ticket. It could be checking backups in the context of the MSPs. So every process can be broken down, or department can be broken down into the 4 elements.
Can I push you a little bit on this? So in terms of this framework and how it might relate to, say, let's say a legal company, for example. So how can we maybe think about it in terms of real terms of how they might apply?
Okay, so a legal company might have, just to keep it really simple, is they might get inquiries from their clients about, or they might have a query from a client about how to do something. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, you might have a person sat there checking a particular inbox to divert that to the relevant department.
Right.
Okay, it's a really simple example.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the first thing is there's the gathering element of that. So at some point, an email enters the inbox. So someone has to look and gather that information from the inbox. Mm-hmm. That's the gathering bit, okay? That's relatively straightforward. They then need to take action on it. So it could be that person that currently sits there doing it moves that into their practice management system.
Okay.
So you're taking it out of the inbox saying, okay, the name is James, he's a client, he's litigation, and that needs to go into the practice management, or check the practice management system. Oh, does James exist? You know, that kind of thing. That's the action. Then there might be the intelligence part of it. So someone looks at that email and needs to understand the context of that email to know what to do with it, what action to take, how to respond to it. That's the I.
Got it.
That's the intelligence.
Yeah.
Then you've got the N, which is the notify part.
Okay.
So the notify part might be that it's someone's job to do a report at the end of the day or the week that says, here's the inquiries that we had, and here's what happens to them.
Okay.
So at the moment, you might have one person who's doing that whole process. And when you break down what that actual process is, it's those elements.
Okay.
The G, the gathering, the A, the action, the I, the intelligence, the human bit, and then N, the notification. And the reason we break it down into those 4 elements is because G, gathering, and notifying, reporting, is relatively straightforward to kind of automate.
Right.
The action bit is slightly more complex, and the I bit is more difficult. That's the AI bit. That's the really brainy bit. And the challenge that MSPs and all companies who want to do automation and AI is they all want to start with the I bit. They want to start with let's stick everything into ChatGPT, and then start with the simple bits, like with all things IT.
Yeah.
And start
capturing those requirements to start with.
That's right. And so going back to the point about business analysts, you need someone who can look at a process and understand that process and break that down into the component steps, so you can then know how to then automate that or use AI to do stuff with it.
Brilliant. Okay, so we have this framework in place.
Yep.
And I know some of the MSPs that are going to be watching this are going to be thinking, okay, that sounds marvelous.
Yep.
In reality, I've got at my disposal.
Yep.
I have, I guess, Copilots are probably the first technology.
Absolutely. So I think that what everyone is hoping for, what all MSPs are hoping for, is that Copilot is the kind of the golden goose.
Yes.
This is it.
Yes.
Great.
Just sell Copilot.
Microsoft have saved our lives.
Yes.
We just go and sell a load of licenses. We make a nice margin.
Yeah.
And that's it. Set and forget, what all MSPs love, right? But actually, I don't think that's going to be the case, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
Because what happens is you're going to sell Copilot, and then what's going to happen is your clients are going to say to you, well, that's great. How do we use it? So they're going to expect you to train them on it. So maybe there's an opportunity.
In some cases, they're asking for it, aren't they? Is the client saying, I've heard about this new technology?
That's right. Yeah, well, that actually gets us onto another point, which is I believe that MSPs should absolutely be, they should be speaking to their clients before the clients are speaking to them. They need to be the go-to people, because the problem is that everyone is already using ChatGPT, Gemini, or all these other ones. They're playing around with AI on their phones, just having fun with it. Mm-hmm. And the person they should be speaking to is the MSP. And if the MSP is not being proactive about that, then a company that does automation AI is probably going to be going after them and saying, well, we can help you with that.
There's a real risk there.
It's a real risk. Yeah. A real risk. And I think that, as I said earlier, MSPs are scared of this technology. Most of the MSPs, they might be playing around with it themselves, but they don't quite understand it. So they're scared to kind of offer it out and have those conversations.
Right. Well, this sounds pretty bleak. What are the next steps then? So I'm interested. Okay. I'm an MSP. I see this vulnerability. I'd love to do more with AI. What are my first steps? I understand that. So the framework's great. That's a good help in terms of understanding business requirements. What's next?
So I think if you want to kind of maximize what you're going to be able to get from this, both internally and externally, is think of AI. Everyone talks about AI. AI is the buzzword. Mm-hmm. It is the zeitgeist at the moment. But AI, as I describe it, is the brain, and automation are the hands.
Okay.
And a brain in a bowl doing some really cool things is kind of worthless.
Yeah.
And what you need is that connective kind of element, which is the automation. So I would encourage MSPs to start looking at things like Power Automate as part of the Power Platform. That's quite comfortable because you're in the Microsoft world.
Yeah.
In Microsoft Copilot, the next thing that's coming out is agentic kind of copilots, which sounds very complicated, but is very similar. It's basically natural language automations. So you can say, go into my inbox, check my emails, extract the ones from James, and then go and do this.
Okay, so that's far more user-friendly, I would say, as a starting point.
Yeah, but not to be bleak, you can do it quick and dirty. So a lot of people use things like Zapier is another one, Make is another one, Roost I think is one that probably a lot of MSPs are talking about and thinking about. But you can do it well, or you can do it a bit dirty. And basically by doing it a bit dirty, you can it's very easy to write a really quick and dirty automation that does something, but it's not going to be robust, possibly not even secure, which is a big thing, and also not scalable. So you might end up, if you go down that route, doing loads of strange little automations for your clients and billing them for the time, but actually it comes back to bite you.
Right. My sort of marketing head tells me I want something I can productize, standardize.
Yeah.
Is that possible in this realm?
To a certain extent. I think to a certain extent, you have to get your head around the idea that this is a consultative type of work. It's very similar to the world of web development or development. So if probably like me, a lot of MSPs 10, 15 years ago thought, brilliant, now we can be a web development company, and then kind of went in and then thought, oh no, there's
a learning curve.
This is hell. Yeah, because you're waiting for requirements from clients, you're getting all that kind of pain, and then they turn around and say, well, can you just move this button? And you say, well, this doesn't be £5,000, and they say, what? It's just moving a button. You get all that stuff with automation. So you just have to get your head around the fact that this is the world you're entering. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so are there any quick wins then? At the sort of SMB level, I'm working with a small legal firm, something along those lines. I just want to dip my toe in the water. Are there certain things I can do with? So would it be Power Automate you'd still be looking at?
So we use as a business we use the Power Platform and Power Automate, and we use OpenAI through the Azure kind of back end. So you get access to loads of other stuff that you don't get by just ChatGPT.
Okay, let's talk use cases then. Do they agree in terms of use cases for a customer like that?
Yeah. Okay. So you're an MSP and you've got a customer, and let's say a good example is one that we did recently. So there's an inbox that needs to be checked regularly by someone. In their case, it was an accounts inbox. They didn't want their expensive accounts resource going in every day and checking this inbox and having to react to emails and things like that.
Yeah.
So what they wanted to move that person into a different role, and the directors of the business wanted just to see a summary of those kind of queries every day, but not just a kind of list of them, because Copilot can kind of do that. You can go in and say, summarize all my emails for the day, right? But you have to go in and do it. They wanted to get something that was pushed to them that was ordered by priority. So as a person would do, order it by priority and summarize it. So for example, the person that was doing that would have gone in and said, James is chasing you for money. This person's telling you about a new product, like literally summarized it.
Okay, I can see the use in that. Of course, yeah.
So in terms of a solution, what was done there was basically, again, using the gains methodology, is that the gathering bit was going in and getting the emails,
right,
sucking out the subject and the body of the email. The action and intelligence was kind of putting it into OpenAI, getting it to summarize the contents of it into a single line sentence. Okay. So James wants money.
Yes.
Okay. And then using the intelligence that had been built in to say, right, we want to know if someone's chasing us for money, if there's something urgent, if something hasn't been done, I want that as top priority, and then I want it ordered by priority, and then notify. So send that to the directors. So a relatively straightforward and simple task that a person can do kind of with their eyes closed. But you can see the work that's involved in doing that is not as simple as, Copilot will do it.
No. Absolutely not. So what does the future hold then, do you think? What are the next steps? Do you think you're going to see MSPs transitioning more towards this, would you say? Do you think it's something or is it something that they should engage with a specialist company for, or is there something in between? How does the future look?
I think there's two ways. I think either you have to embrace it and look at how to build that within your MSP. So that will involve potentially hiring or contracting people who've got the right development experience in these Make, Zapier, Power Platform, those kind of things, and the AI part of it as well. But then once you do that, you're then potentially going to need project managers and business analysts as well. The other way, which of course I'm going to say, is you maybe partner with a company that does that.
Yeah.
as an example, I'm sure there's other companies that do it, but we do it in a managed way. So someone says, I want a bot that does this thing for an inbox, for example, we say, okay, great, that's X per month. And then you can either mark that up as much as you want. We do all the legwork, for example, or you buy it from us at a trade amount, and then you can, there's kind of set price, so you get a kickback for it, that kind of thing. So there's two ways. I'm not trying to promote mine. Well, I am.
That's absolutely fine. The shameless plugs.
Shameless plug.
But it's really good to understand how the potential monetization model, because I've sat in peer groups where we talked about this sort of thing, and understanding quite how you productize this stuff is an element of it. So seeing it in that way is interesting.
And when we started the automation business, we originally did it as typical kind of time and materials. It was going to cost this much. This is stage 1. This is stage 2. The challenge with that is that you, giving the kind of the web dev example, is that you ask the client to give you certain information, and then you're waiting 3 months for that information, and then you're not getting paid for the second stage.
Is that not still the case though, if you're selling it on
so if you do it on a recurring basis, what happens is we do one very kind of 90-minute business analyst kind of walk through the process.
Oh, okay.
We do what's called a POD, which is a process overview document. From that, we have simple kind of pricing bands. We know from that, using the games methodology, how complicated it is. So we can then put it into one of those bands, and literally within 2 weeks of the initial sales call, we'll have, this is how much it costs per month.
Are you going out there looking for opportunities to improve efficiency through automation? Would you go into a business and say, right, okay, I'm almost starting afresh here. Yeah. Let's look at the different roles of individuals in the company. Yeah. Is that part of what you do, or do they come to you and say, this is a pain point?
There's 2 tracks. So one track is that someone says, and usually this will be a slightly larger business, they'll come and they say, right, and funnily enough, it's normally when someone leaves the business or there's a pressure point. So Doris has left and is no longer doing something, and they don't necessarily want to replace her. So they'll come to us and say, we've got this process, we know how it works. Can you automate that and use AI or whatever? That's great. But a lot of companies say, there's all this cool AI and automation stuff. We want to use it. We have no idea where to start. And for that track, we do a kind of a whole program of, education, addressing people's fears, because you're always going to find blockers who say, no, nothing can automate my
So you
job.
go in for an in-person session and
absolutely.
And teach on
yeah,
this
so it'll be a workshop first of all. Off the back of that, usually come up with a list of between 10 and 20 potential processes that could be automated. And then we then kind of have regular kind of sessions with them to kind of track the progress of how that's going, start bringing in the next process, review how the last one went, and it becomes a kind of constant evolving kind of an evolving process for them of improvement.
So it's basically that first initial stage that I guess MSPs need to become familiar with, ideally, in terms of that education piece.
Yeah.
Which probably comes from, I guess, seeing it done.
Yeah, I would say for MSPs who are really not sure what to do, they want to do something with it, but they're not sure how to do it, I would say the best thing is go and speak to all of your clients. Go and say to them, are you playing with AI? Have you used it? Are your staff using it? What do you think about it? What are your fears about it? Are you worried about security? I mean, there's a million. Go and ask ChatGPT for the list of 20 questions.
Well, that's not a bad place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then go and have a conversation with them. This is no different to other kind of services. Mm-hmm. And once you start that conversation, they'll then know that you're thinking about it. Because to be fair, they're just as anxious about it and curious about it as you are. So you can kind of go on the journey together, but they can kind of rely on you to be the techie ones who can start to help them.
I guess there's also a very real risk of not only you potentially losing the business or the relationship that you have with them, but also from a security perspective. That's another angle. If you've got customers that potentially are just using, technologies that are, whatever it might be, completely open to the world, they're uploading data that's sensitive and so on. So there's another angle there to be talking to the customer about what they're doing.
Exactly. The security element is a big bit because people are worried about it. And if you think about some of the automations that we do are logging onto people's bank accounts, downloading credit card statements, paying employees, these have been fully automated, but, we're all in security as well and cyber security. Yeah, so that's why when I talk about kind of dirty automation, what you don't want is an automation that's looking at a password on a notepad file somewhere, clear text. There's methodologies and practices, good practice on how to do this.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jamie. It's been one of the more challenging pieces to film this, but I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I think it's some much needed insight and perhaps some much needed kind of on the ground information for MSPs to be able to take and hopefully get their understanding of this wonderful area of opportunities AI.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for chatting. Cheers.
Cheers.